Hello everybody, and welcome back to Steven's Fight Show. So, Chris Eubank Jr. returned to the ring last week after the unfortunate fallout in his fight against Conor Benn, and it was a disappointing outcome if you're a Chris Eubank Jr. fan. If you're somehow unaware of what happened, Chris Eubank Jr. fought Liam Smith, and the fight ended in a knockout, where Chris Eubank was on the wrong side of it. And there's a lot that needs to be discussed about Eubank's performance and even Liam Smith's performance as well. Liam Smith was the first man to finish Chris Eubank Jr. in his career inside 4 rounds, and this was regarded as a huge upset. A lot of people thought Chris Eubank Jr. was going to beat Liam Smith, but in this sport, the impossible becomes possible, and crazy things can occur just like this. So heading into this fight, the odds were favoring Chris Eubank Jr. to be the favorite to win this fight, but in my head, I thought this fight was going to be a lot closer than people thought. And I guess it's safe to say that I was more than correct because of what happened. Based on Eubank's last performance against Liam Williams, I thought he was going to go the distance against Liam Smith, where he's going to have to box smart and dig deep late to pull off the victory. However, as I was watching this fight, I slowly started to believe that Liam Smith could actually beat Eubank Jr. for reasons that I'll further explain later in this video. So for this fight, Chris Eubank Jr. had Roy Jones Jr. as his head coach. For the Conor Benn fight, apparently he trained himself because he was trying to get his dad to train him, but his father didn't want to get involved. So now Roy Jones is back in Eubank's corner as the head coach, and because of this loss, Roy Jones has been attacked online by fans around the world for being a bad coach. And we'll definitely talk about that later in the video. Alright, so now let's discuss about the fight. So as the first round started, Chris Eubank Jr. was employing that Roy Jones Jr. style. We all know the style that Roy Jones would use back in his prime. People label him as one of the best to ever do it because of what he's accomplished and the way that he fights. Now keep in mind, Roy Jones was able to pull it off because he's Roy Jones. The style where your hands are low, where you're jab heavy, lead hook heavy, trying to maintain distance, sticking and moving, counter punching. But the most dangerous part of them all is that the primary defense for this style is the upper body movement. You rarely use your hands as protection. You don't normally see a high guard in this style. You might see a couple parries and a couple blocks here and there, but a majority of the time, people who employ this style, they use head movement. Now Roy Jones in his prime, I do not care what anyone has to say, you couldn't touch him. He could pull off this style and rarely get touched because he's great. However, as I said again, not everyone can be great like a legend. Also, another detriment to the style, or more so a trade-off, is that inside the clinch, there's really no effective offense whatsoever because this style usually thrives when you're at your range. Liam Smith, on the other hand, has been on a bit of a tear in his last few fights where he's won 3 straight fights by knockouts, and he's a very good boxer. He's got good fundamentals as a boxer, his punches are very fast and accurate, he rips to the body very well, has an active high guard, and most importantly, he's a good combination puncher. And that's a bad sight for Chris Eubank because the style to beat the style that Eubank wants to utilize is a style like Liam Smith. So going back to the fight, I'm pretty sure any boxing fan knew that Chris Eubank was going to come out on his back foot, throwing the jab, slipping punches, circling around the ring, and trying to keep Smith at distance. Again, elements of what Roy Jones would do. Liam Smith was the one cutting off the ring, moving his head off the center line, attacking the body with the right hand, disrupting the timing of Eubank's offense, and trying to land his own jab to set up his combinations. At the beginning of the fight, it was pretty competitive. Eubank was landing jabs, and in a few instances, we saw him put the right hand behind the jab. Liam Smith did a good job of closing down the range by slipping Eubank's jab to land body shots, which frees up space for the right hand over the top. Even though Eubank was landing effectively, in my opinion, I don't think he ever got Liam Smith's respect. Every time he would land, Smith would just continue to pressure Eubank into the ropes. And the reason for that is that Eubank is not sitting down on those right hands or those right uppercuts. The way he was fighting, he wasn't really inflicting damage with his shots. Instead, he was more so scoring points than landing power punches. Another thing I was noticing was that Eubank was too comfortable being in the corner. That was where Liam Smith had a lot of success throughout the entire fight with the body shots and the right hand. He never adjusted to what Liam Smith was doing. Every time he would circle to his left to throw a jab, Liam Smith would just take it away by closing the distance and landing an overhand. Smith also looked like the much better inside fighter too. All these reasons slowly made me believe that I was going to be wrong, and little did I know what was about to happen. So the 4th round begins and Eubank opts to continue to stay in the corner to try to lure Smith to come in so he can counterpunch from that Roy Jones style. And the thing about that is that he wasn't having a lot of success doing that prior, and it was only going to get ugly from there. because the combination puncher in this fight, which is Liam Smith, started to tee off on Chris Eubank and he was landing some devastating shots. Eventually, Liam Smith landed a left uppercut followed by a left hook that puts Eubank down. It was insane to see that happen because I don't think I've ever seen Eubank get hit like that. So Eubank, for some reason, doesn't take the 10 count, and that's where he messed up because as soon as he got up to his feet, he charged forward against Liam Smith, and he got hit with a big overhand, followed up with a couple of uppercuts, and that was all she wrote. Maybe the ref could have let it go a little longer, but I don't disagree with the stoppage. Like, did y'all see his legs when he got back up to his feet? He was done. He did not know where he was and what was even happening. I think his ego honestly got the better of him. And Chris Eubank, he didn't throw too many combinations in this fight, but when he did throw combinations, it didn't even look like they were sharp and precise. If anything, it looked a little sloppy. And to add to that, why did Eubank strictly use upper body movement to defend when he was in a vulnerable position inside the ring? You get pushed into the corner and you get hit with a good shot, and instead, you decide to continue to move your head to get hit with a couple more, which leads to you getting finished. I'm telling you, this Roy Jones drunken boxer style is not for everyone. And this transitions into the conversation of if Roy Jones is actually a good trainer or not. And in my opinion, ever since he became Chris Eubank's coach, the advice that he's telling Chris Eubank in the corner in between rounds for his fights, I believe the instructions and the advice is good. It's just I don't think Chris Eubank is capable enough of following instructions from Roy Jones. A lot of the advice that Roy Jones gives is based on what he knows about boxing, which stems from the way that he fights. So I don't think Roy is a bad coach, I just think Chris Eubank can't pull off the style that Roy is teaching. And if this style is pretty much ineffective for Chris Eubank, then I can't see him effectively following through on instructions because the foundation is not established. Roy was also protesting his case by saying there was an elbow thrown by Liam Smith, and from my perspective, it was a bad angle to see if an elbow really landed, but if the elbow really did land on Chris Eubank, I don't think it was intentional, and it certainly could be a possibility to cause the swelling under the right eye of Chris Eubank, but it was definitely not a reason why Chris Eubank lost the fight. It's 100% not an excuse because Eubank didn't have a good performance. So yeah, since Chris Eubank lost, Conor Benn is also talking smack on Twitter. I'm a fan of Conor Benn, but in my opinion, he has to pipe down a little bit because you got caught for using PEDs in preparation for a fight against the man that you're clowning. You claim you're innocent and there's no evidence to prove your claims. So yeah, he just needs to quiet down until he has the right to talk because as of right now, Conor has evidently been proven that he's not a clean athlete. But at the same time, what I will say, after watching that fight between Eubank and Smith, you can't help but just wonder what would have happened if Eubank and Conor Benn fought each other. Without any drugs, of course. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to what I have to say. And let me know, do you think Chris Eubank Jr. should activate the rematch clause against Liam Smith? Do you think Roy Jones Jr. is a bad head coach for Chris Eubank Jr.? Drop a comment and let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoy content that is related to combat sports, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you guys scroll down to the bottom of the description of this video and click on the link to follow my Twitter. I post many tweets about fight news, fight updates that you definitely do not want to miss. So if you want to stay further connected with what I have to say, please follow my Twitter down below to stay tuned. And other than that, it's been Steven, signing out. Peace.